In today's channel message from the angels, they're telling us about the important role that is being played by the people who will not awaken in this coming ascension, that they are helping to disrupt the collective consciousness. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. If you haven't been here before, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that once a week. I share the messages here with you on YouTube. And today's message isn't a very surprising one. It came out of left field for me, and I find it to be super interesting and super helpful to understand the role that everybody is playing. The angels say that they are grateful to everyone who's chosen to incarnate right now. So I hope you enjoy the message. If you'd like to hear more like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So here's what they say. We say, you are aching for new start, for the opening to begin. You have heralded this time coming for a generation. It is now upon yourselves, and opening is in question. Will it begin? Is it started already? How will it occur? It has started. You are in the dishevelment. It is an unraveling of all that is with regard to expectation. So I love that, right? You're saying, me. Thanks. Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting. So we are in the process, the phase that we are in of this process of our own ascension is the unraveling of everything regarding expectation. So let's have them, they'll explain now why this is so important. They say expectations are powerful. They harness in the legs of time coming and lead you in a direction not far from where you've been. Humanity is constrained by the expectations they suffer from. They lead a life within what they expect for themselves, and they determine these possibilities by what they have known past comings to be. These no longer reflect the truth of who you are becoming. Therefore, all of these disenchantments must be unraveled. So right there, and they're speaking very clearly this time. It's different. They kind of shift it up and mix it up. It's different voices as they come through. But this is I love how they are expressing themselves in this message. And they said all of these disenchantments. So I think that is important because it is, in other words, we are enchanting as our true self, and to not see our true selves is disenchanting, right? Our non-true self is disenchanting. So it's a simple but also eloquent way of saying it. Yeah, so expectations, super, super strong. Our expectations limit what we can see. And they limit us from actually perceiving the changes that are happening around us. So this has to be broken through. And you're saying, yes, dishevelment. Expectations are disenchantments waiting to happen. Facts. Yes, I love that. Expectation. Yeah, disenchantments waiting to happen. And you're saying, wow, I have been talking to a couple of friends about the ideas around expectations in these times. Yeah, it is. I think it is. They're saying here that this is a critical thing that we're in right now. How do we free ourselves of our expectations? And they go into this more deeply, why this is so hard for us. So I think it's really helpful to understand. They go on to say, to be aware, to find them, this is the difficulty. You have no regard for future incarnations, no expectation of them, and cannot know how they move through reality. It is unknown to yourselves, and you live hamstrung and harnessed within the possibilities you know well, the already come down, the past century. These you breathe, and expectations set the reality. So it's really this idea that it's like you don't know what you don't know. We can only dream up the possibilities, but the biggest thing they're saying here is that we cannot know how they move through reality. So it's not even just our expectations about what will transportation be like in the future, or what will our housing be like in the future. It's about how do we as beings interact with Earth and with being on Earth. It's a whole new way of processing what it is to exist in incarnation that is going to be very, very different, and that we can't understand it really because we don't have a frame of reference that we are pulling on, and we're saying, oh, okay, well, the things are going to be torn apart. So maybe we're going to be going back to last century, or maybe where we didn't have cars or didn't have transportation, or maybe we're living in more like ancient times, but it's not like that. They're saying, no, we have a really hard time of understanding what our future life is going to be because we have no frame of reference for it. and that we are hamstrung and harnessed within these possibilities you know well that have already come down, that we've already experienced, especially this past century, because that's kind of really as far as we go back in terms of our stuff that has actually touched us. Like maybe you have grandparents that you talk to that tell about this is what the Great Depression was like. So we might expect it to be like that, right? We might think, oh, we better brace ourselves for the kind of difficulties they went through because they talked to us about it. So we have some frame of reference. We're saying, nope, this what we're heading into. It's nothing like that. It's nothing we've experienced, and we can't really grasp it because we don't have a lived experience of it. All right, so they go through. They no longer reflect. They know these expectations are powerful. These no longer reflect the truth of who you are becoming, and so this is the important thing: is that who we are becoming is much larger than who we've been, and so the expectations we have. It's literally like expecting yourself to live within a very strict confinement, and then outside yourself, there's all this open space that you could move into. But since we don't expect it, we don't reach out to find it. I said these disenchantments must be unraveled for us to grow into who we're meant to be as a species, as humanity. So next paragraph, they say to be aware, to find them. Oh, I read that. This is the difficulty. You have no more. Okay, I read that part. Okay, going on next paragraph. Sorry, I lost my place. We wish to begin again and to soften your landing. But there is no recourse but becoming fresh again, wiping away those choices you have made, circumstances notwithstanding, and leading you into this new beginning. It is a strong measure that must take hold. A great awakening only happens upon the disturbance of the collective energy. So, and you're saying they no longer reflect, they must be unraveled. That is great. Yeah, and I think it's really expanding our minds, but not knowing what to expand our mind into. And what do we do about that? What do we do about that? And I think this is why they keep talking about how we have to unpack the closet before we put something else in it, because we have to be in a space of not expecting, that we have to let go of everything because we can't possibly understand what's coming. So we have to really, and it's just because it's so outside of our frame of reference. So this is that idea that we really have to let go and be in a space of allowing. And they keep talking about that as well. Like how many times have they told us to be in a space of allowing because we can't know what to expect. So we have to release, let go, empty the closet, and just be. And be in the moment, be in the now, let things happen, allow. And hopefully begin to perceive things that are changing and to begin to see ourselves differently. It's going to take a really heightened state of awareness, of willingness to be open and to perceive, to begin to start to notice how we are changing as beings in this reality, how we are altering is really, really different. So it is a strong measure. So we wish to begin, they say they wish to begin again and to soften your landing. So the angels are like, hey, we wish we could take all the sting out of this. They would love to be able to just stand beneath us, with their wings and just catch us as we're falling and to make this easy. But they're saying they can't do it because otherwise it's not going to happen. So they're saying that there is no recourse but becoming fresh again, wiping away these choices you have made, circumstances notwithstanding, and leading you into this new beginning. So they're saying there's no other way. We have to have this period of difficulty, even though they wish that we could avoid it, that we have to go through this because we have to be shaken out of our coma, right? It's a process of moving through humanity, awakening. The goal is to awaken as many people as possible. And they can't do it if they're kind of cushioning the blow and treating us softly, because our nature is to revert to what was. That this has always been our habit, is to learn from history, is to draw on what we've been, is to pattern match based on our expectations, based on everything we've known. Oh, this is like what I've known before. When we meet people, we pattern match. We say, oh, this person reminds me of that guy Joe I knew in high school. And when we assume that they have the same traits as that guy Joe, we pattern match. We draw on our past to create our future. And then we walk into the future and we start treating that person as if they were Joe, right? We think that they have something in common, and they may be totally different. But this is how we work through life. We pattern match based on where we've been, and we have to break that open, crack that open, take us out of our comfort zone, and put us in a space of open, of being allowing. So they would love to soften the landing. They can't. They say that they're trying to wipe away the choices we've made, circumstances notwithstanding. So they're understanding we've made choices based on the lives that we're in, based on what we could do. And they have told us keep on making choices, keep on investing, keep on living your life, being engaged. They want us to do this because the energy will continue to move through. But we have made these choices based on what is available to us and what we know. So they say, they are now going to, some of these choices that we've made, these plans that we have in mind about how our lives are going to turn out, those will be wiped away. And they're telling us that they're going to be wiping these away. They wish they could soften the blow. They can't. But some of these are going to be wiped away and leading us into the new beginning. They say it is a strong measure that must take hold. So they recognize this is drastic. A great awakening only happens upon the disturbance of the collective energy. And here is the key. This is really what we're getting into now. Is we are all affected and rooted in our collective consciousness as a species, that it's very, very hard for us to untie ourselves from collective energy. And so we have to disrupt it. We have to change at the collective in order to allow this awakening to happen. So how do we do that? How do we move a collective energy that is driven and motivated to stay the same, at its own detriment? How do we do that? And this is how they're saying, this is how we're doing it. And you're saying, brand new, let the learning begin. You say, we are becoming change. We just need to get out of the way. This is Dawn. You're correct. Yeah, we do need to get out of the way. And it is so hard to do that. You're saying, wow, this is a very similar message I received in my morning centering, that I need to release all ideas of my success because I'm on a brand new path with new terrain, something I have never seen or heard before. So it's best to remain present and unassuming. Yes, that is so great. Yes, that is exactly what they're saying for all of us. And Betsy's like, shake it up. Yeah. Yep, that is where we need to be, present and unassuming. Yeah, I love it. All right, so here we go. So how is it they're saying we have to disrupt the collective, and that collective is driven to harmonize and stay the same and keep things the way they are, because if they are the way we are, we know what to expect and we can prepare, right? Being in a space of not knowing is not comfortable for human beings. So we have to break that. And how do they break the collective energy? They go on to say, it is imperative that all are pulled from their slumber and lifted into an opening, and revealed to them will be their own agony at losing that which they expected to be. And some will not leave this port of ancestry. They will linger on in the hopes of some retrieval of this incarnation, to return to lost times and beyond, living to stay as they are in tranquility. And this we cannot offer them. They may go on living, but not as they are, and this is difficulty. Fear inspires their hearts to linger too long, to hold on to their trajectory. To let go is a feeling they cannot like. They feel rejected in form, and lifespans wither. So this is a heavy paragraph, but they're explaining how what the collective is likely, given the temperature of the collective energy as it is right now, this is likely how people will feel. And they're saying it's imperative that they're pulled from their slumber, that they would love to offer their soft landing. Like they said, they would love to stand beneath and to cushion our blow and to let this happen easily and to let all of us have it's like a parent. It's so easy to say yes. And it is so hard to do the right thing and say no sometimes when you have to be the bad guy, right? To let them fall down is so hard. And the angels are like, we wish we could just cushion this for you. We wish we could make it easy, but they can't. It is imperative that we are pulled from our slumber, right? And lifted into an opening. And so this opening, some of you are like already have dropped all your shields and you're opening and you're allowing and you're like, let me at this opening. I want in. But there is the majority of humankind that does not feel that way. And they are desperately searching for some way to return to the way things were before COVID, right? They just keep talking about, I can't wait till things get back to the way they were, right? And the angels are saying, it's not happening. We're not going back. They're saying, and revealed to them will be their own agony at losing that which they expected to be. And we have to really take a breath and move out of our own experience and recognize for how many souls, how painful that is going to be. And to be in our compassion, to understand that the state of mind that they are in, and to feel for them, right? And to be compassionate, to understand that this really is deeply painful, that they cannot have things the way that they were, and that their expectations are rattled, and how that brings them into such a state of fear. They are not equipped for this. And that is agony, the way they describe it. It is an agony. And think about that from the perspective of, someone who's trying to provide for their family, right? And they feel this expectation that they have to hold everybody together and keep everybody safe, but they don't know what to expect, and the fear that inspires. And be compassionate for that person, right? And so they say some will not leave this port of ancestry, that they will not let go of the things that they were born into, right? Of the way that they say, well, my dad was a plumber and I'm going to be a plumber. Or my mom did it this way. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to live on in the same home, the same house, the same town, that this is my right of ancestry and I don't want to leave it, right? And those ties of ancestry can be tight. They can be binding, right? And so they're saying they will not leave this port of ancestry. They will linger on in the hope of some retrieval of this incarnation, that they're going to be trying with every fiber of their being to keep things the way they were. And they will stay in a really difficult circumstance, hoping that they can somehow bring it back. They'll stay on way longer. They won't let go, in other words. And they're saying to return to lost times and beyond. So if they can't get back what they had in this life, they'll look backwards and say, well, then I'm just going to go back to like Little House on the Prairie, right? I'm going to take something that I know and try to return to that. Like, how far back do I have to go to try to keep something that I know, right? To keep it within the realm of their own experience. And they're saying to return to lost times and beyond, to living to stay as they are in tranquility, all they are wishing for. And it's important that we really, in our compassion, try to step into that state of mind and to understand the only desire they have is not to expand, not to grow, which I know is really different from you guys. I know you're like, bring on the lessons, let me grow, let me live, let me be my fullest being. And they're like, no, I just want to be okay. I just want to be calm. I just want to be in a tranquil state. I just want to be left alone to live my life, right? They want to feel safe. So it's like, it's important to feel that and to know that and to be compassionate for them, right? To feel that and to know that they have their right. Like this is the choice that they have made, is to wish for these things. And the fear that they feel is real. So to acknowledge that. And they say this we can't, they want to stay in their tranquility, and this we cannot offer them. And you can feel the heaviness for the angels, like how sad they are that they can't give them this, right? They are sad about this. They say fear inspires their hearts. They say that they cannot go on living as they are, and this is difficulty. Fear inspires their hearts. They linger too long. They hold on to their trajectory, so they are not opening into what comes. And this is really detrimental to them, that this hanging on makes this whole, it is like, I think we talked about this before in the movie, that movie with Jodie Foster, where she's in the pod and she's trying to be strapped into the seat and staying with her expectations about what this ride is going to be. And as soon as she unbuckles and she's floating and she realized, wow, there's no friction at all. But the people who are locked into their seatbelts, who are tucked in, they cannot, they are so full of fear, they cannot release. So they stay in that shaking to their own detriment. And then they say here, they feel rejected in form and lifespans wither. So there is a physical component to this, that this heaviness of not having things the way they are, if they do not let go, their lifespans wither, that it shortens their lifespan. It creates a physical harm to themselves, right? They feel rejected in form. Their body can't handle it. In the same way that in that pod, like shaken, if she had stayed in, she would have been shaken into unconsciousness, and it could potentially be life-threatening, right? If she unbuckles, all of a sudden she's completely fine. You're saying feeling these intense energies. Yeah. You're saying there are some people that I wonder how they will ever wake up, and they might not. And I think that's what the angels are saying. Yeah. And you said, Betsy, they probably won't wake up. I think that is exactly what they're saying. So they go on to say, but here's what's really, really interesting about these souls, is they're saying they are bridging into the next beyond. They are helping. Discern them not as empty beings. They help to conquer the polarity that exists. They disrupt the conscious mind of humanity and lift it higher as a consequence of their felt loss. They disturb the nation of their own hesitation to blend and merge into the next beginning. They are disruptors of a sort essential to a new beginning. Bridging, they open themselves to offer their pain for humanity. Wow. So this is the shift. This is where it's like, okay, this is not what we expected, but it makes such perfect sense. And they're saying these souls who came in, who are staying asleep, they are performing a function of disrupting the collective consciousness through their pain. And it's because of their expectations that if all of us who feel ourselves to be ready for this, who are excited for this, who are expecting it, we are not in that collective consciousness. We're not, by our fact of jumping into what's coming, we're basically just running away. We're jumping away from the collective consciousness. To disrupt the collective consciousness, you have to be in it. Right? Of course. And I never thought about that. So there needs to be people who are rooted deeply in the collective, who break it apart. And that comes from pain. And I never saw that, but of course. So they're saying they are bridging into the next beyond. They are helping. Discern them not as empty beings, right? So they came in, they are doing a service for humanity in their process. Their process is just as important as ours. The people who are sleeping, just as important as ours, in a different way, very different way, right? Disruptors offering their pain to humanity. Holy wow, right? I know. And essential disruptors, yes, wow, plot twist. Love to them in their struggle for all of us. Oh, beautifully said. Yes, right? It is totally. I did not see it either. So they say they discern them not as empty beings. They help to conquer the polarity that exists. So this is what is strongly held in the collective consciousness right now, is this polarity. And how do we get rid of it? How do we break that apart and get to a space of unity? We have to be in it. We have to be in the collective to do it. The collective consciousness, we have to be a part of it. So that's not meaning that, like, if you're not in it now, we can't be part of this effort. Somebody else has to do it. And these are the people who are doing it. So they disrupt the conscious mind of humanity and lift it higher as a consequence of their felt loss. And I love that they define the felt. It is the emotion that does all the work. It's the feelings that are so important. It's not the thoughts or the thinking. So in other words, it doesn't matter what side they're on. It doesn't matter the judgments they are making or who they are blaming. All that matters is the feeling. So you could have two people who are on opposite sides of this polarization, and they are having the same feeling, and they are doing the same work for humanity of breaking apart those expectations, right? And they say they disturb the nation of their own hesitation. I love that, because they're saying it's like the nation, like it's as though everybody's in their own camp, right? And they're disturbing that nation of their own little camp, of their own hesitation to blend and merge into the next beginning. So they're disturbing that. They say they are disruptors of a sort essential to a new beginning. Bridging, they open themselves to offer their pain for humanity. So yeah, just wow. Here we go. And then they go on to say, here we go. The sensation of loss, of living, of expectations lost and not found, it ruptures the complacent mind of the collective. And this rupture brings down the possibility of something else, the whisper that was formed on our lips, our whisper of hope to humanity, the whispering life, new beginning. It cannot come before the dishevelment. And disheveled beings must allow themselves to be torn apart in their hopes and frequencies of all is as I expect it to be. So here they're really laying it out, and they're saying it's a frequency that the collective is holding. The frequency, and they say this is the name they are giving to the frequency. The frequency name is all is as I expect it to be. This is the frequency that has to be blown apart. And it has to be, and it's a feeling that they have to embody, that has to come in, that has to break this open. And it can't happen, this whisper, this hope of a new beginning, a new life. So there will be some, what this implies is there will be some that wake up through this process and they will hear the whisper, right? This whisper, this hope that will come in through these cracks and through these openings, through this dishevelment that happens. Then the whisper starts to penetrate and come in and lift people, right? But the dishevelment has to happen. It has to be a breaking apart, and they must allow themselves to be torn apart. Wow. All right. They go on. The next paragraph, they say, rejection of new form has been humanity. This form of existence, of a collective pulling against the new and individuation and into collective harmony, this must be disrupted. This pattern of living born unto yourselves through your inhabitation in mammalian beings. Living thus in human form opens thee to all capacities of their neural beings, and you live within the proximity of that state of life and living. It affects your wants and desires enormously. You cannot separate from it easily. So this is, again, another one of those minds blown open paragraphs, because they're talking about, and the angels have talked about this to me in other messages, that our bodies are sentient beings, that it is as though humanity found, imagine that our souls found that the best creatures on earth to take on our consciousness were cats. Then we would all be cats, and we would know cats. Right now, we know cats as a certain kind of being. But it is possible, like if cats had developed differently and had bigger brains and all this other kind of stuff, we could have come in and been cat people. Like that could have happened. And we would have taken over that life form and made it our own. And that's what we did with human bodies, that this body that you are in is a sentient being. And we all talk about body wisdom and how your body knows things sometimes before you do and tries to communicate to you through pain and through other things. And your body is sentient. And so if we had never come in and inhabited bodies, they might have evolved differently. But that sentient creature of the physical body is still in here. And the collective consciousness that we're a part of is part of the human body. It's not part of our souls. It's not soul thinking, it's body thinking. And I know this for a fact. This is so interesting. I remember seeing a really amazing program about a phenomenal animal communicator. She was probably one of the best I've ever seen. And she did not speak to an animal individually. She always spoke to them at the collective. And they went with her and went exploring in the mountains. And they were like, okay, we want to find some antelope. And so she would go up and she would speak to the antelope collective. And they would show her where there would be, like there's one of us is over here, right? She walked into a troop of angry baboons with a very aggressive male and was able to speak to the collective, and they welcomed her in as one of them. Like I saw this happen. It was incredible. And she talked about it, how she was always, and how she would communicate with the collective of these beings. So humanity, the bodies we are in is a collective consciousness. Our souls are different. So the collective, right, is what needs to be disrupted. And being in the human suit affects us really, really deeply. So okay, the rejection of new form has been humanity. So the collective consciousness is all about keeping ourselves safe. Because what is it that humans on earth, if you think about the human body, the animalistic self is about being safe, about not being eaten by something else, not being poisoned by something else, right? And not being attacked by other tribes. It's about collecting, pulling ourselves in and keeping ourselves safe. This is sort of the tribal nature of humanity, right? And they say this form of existence of collective pulling against, like whatever is like new and different and challenging to us, we're like, no, get that out of here. That might harm us, right? That might be dangerous. We don't want that. Get that out of here. They said this and the pulling into the individual and against and into this collective harmony. How can we all be the same is what they mean by that. How can we all be like each other and limit our choices and keep things the way that they were? This is the collective consciousness. They say this must be disrupted. This pattern of living born unto yourselves through your inhabitation in mammalian beings. So we came into this human form, and with it comes all this baggage that affects our experience of what we think we are. But we are not really this. This is just the perception we inherit because we live in a meat suit. Because we live in a being, a human body is a being, we are living in it, and we have to blend with it. Right? The being doesn't go away. It's still in here with us. So we have this other creature that is inside of us that affects us and on a really deep level because it's speaking to us through hormones, through adrenaline, right? And that's our fear. All these things that mix with all this stuff. It's such a complex soup. It's hard to even comprehend, but it is amazing, right? It's amazing. So we are within this meat suit. We're affected deeply by the being of our own bodies, and that being is part of a collective consciousness that limits and pulls it into harmony and wants it to, and harmony, I mean, in a way of being like everybody else and limiting itself, right? Condensing down into what is known and what is safe, what they believe to be safe, right? This pattern of living born unto yourselves through inhabitation in mammalian beings, living thus in human form opens thee to all capacities of their neural being. So it living in this side, it opens us to their ways, the neural network of the human body, the way the hormones affect it, right? All of this affects us in this incarnation and challenges our perception and prevents us from opening, right? So you live within the proximity of that state of life and living. So we are right up against it. We're in it. We're not even against it. We're in it. It's intertwined with us on this really deep level because we're inhabiting these beings. It's really hard to get out of it. So they're saying it affects your wants and desires enormously. So this is what we're working against in terms of our awakening, in terms of the awakening of humanity, is the challenge of doing this while we are embodied in an animalistic existence. They say you cannot separate from it easily. All right, you're saying this resonates so much. One of my deepest wounds is the feeling of not safe, not being protected. Yeah, it is. We are right in there. And that is that human body speaking to us. And it can be very, very hard to separate from it. So, okay, they go on to say, but now you must. Levity requires a lifting beyond this patterning of being. The human form no longer serves thee as it has. It must disrupt the polarity, the seeing as you have done. A collective animalism and being within the confines of this separatist thinking, it is a stage for humanity. And you must move beyond this limited capacity. So what we're moving into is we will no longer be as tied to these meat suits. And I know some of us have seen that maybe several generations down, we become more and more light. That we are less physical, less dense, and more light. So the human body is changing, that we are changing it from within. And it's not going to be the same anymore. And so it has to evolve with us. And this is big. This is really, really big. So, you're saying the meat suit challenge. Yeah, it reminds me of those crazy Japanese game shows where they have to put on the inflatable sumo suit. And that's us trying to move through reality in this meat suit, in the giant blow-up sumo suit. All right, so we are trying to move beyond, like, at this point, the meat suit is a significant driver of our experience. And part of this waking up is evolving to a place where we are moving into a lighter state of being, and that affects the human body. And the human body has to evolve to come with us. So it's big. It's really big. And that means changing the collective consciousness in order to do it. So you see how this comes. Like this has to happen, and here's why. It's a lot. It's a lot to understand. All right, next paragraph. They say, these ones who fought hard for their entry to come at a time of such injury to themselves, of possible harm to their bodies, we love them well. Though they may be uncertain in these times and live not far beyond the opening, though they dwell in lives of limitation and harbor fear for all that is different, they lay the ground for all that comes to humanity. Their disturbance is essential. It creates the rift through your conscious minds, the collective energy, and allows this departure en masse. We thank them and their origin beginnings. We thank all they have achieved and bless them for their purpose in living. Not what we expected today, was it? Definitely not what I expected, but so helpful in understanding. And it explains so much about how this awakening occurs. So, all right, you guys, you're saying, here we are, you're saying meat suit was closed captioned as meat soup. I don't know if that's inaccurate. A blending and mixing, a co-creation of united injury. I love that. You're right. It is like that. It's almost like we have to become more soupy with the human being that's in here, and it will not have as much control over our experience. I feel like up until now, the body, the human body, has had a very significant impact on how we perceive reality. The five senses, the way that we perceive through the body, I think it has had a very significant impact. And I think that its dominance begins to, as we crack open and change the collective consciousness, then I feel like the human body can relax and it can merge and become more one with us, with the soul spirit that inhabits it. Yeah. So you're saying, I love that angels think we are all perfect. They do, don't they? Like they are. I love that. And I love holding gratitude for the people who have come by choice and know what's in store and know it's going to be hard, and they did it anyways for their own growth, right? So courageous and so challenging. Saying this is really coming into alignment with the Dolores Cannon books. I am not surprised. Yeah, no, Dolores Cannon was kind of amazing. I'm not surprised at all. Yeah. All right, you guys. Huge and enlightening. I love that message. Totally unexpected. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope you just glide over the rest of this eclipse. I hope it is an exalted eclipse for you, that it brings wonderful things. Let's all hold that intention of amazing things for the next couple of days and for the weekend. Sending you blessings, and I will see you next Friday live. Bye, you guys.